In the last section, we spoke about how turning a string into an object where the object's keys are the letters from the string or the characters from the string can be used to solve a wide variety of problems. In this section, we're going to look at one possible way of generating this object right here. Now, if you want to give this entire problem that we're working on a go on your own and maybe even come up with a solution that doesn't use an object like this, that's totally fine. Just pause the video here and continue on in the next section. Otherwise, let's get to this thing. So I'm going to go ahead and use my little notepad over here to show you the solution. So my hope right here is that maybe you watch the solution but don't copy it down. So maybe you watch it right now, and then when you attempt the Max Chars problem, or Max Chars problem that we have queued up right now, maybe you try to reproduce the solution from scratch at that point. But of course, I leave it up to you. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to create some new string, and I'll say, hello there, just like the one that we just saw in the diagram. And then we're going to iterate through this string, and for every character, we're going to add that character to a new object. So maybe I'll make a new object as well called chars, short for characters. So now there's a couple of different ways that we can take these characters and add them to the object. We can either split the string into an array and then use a for each helper to loop over all the characters, or we can use a for of loop to loop through all the characters inside there and do basically the same thing. Because we just saw the for of syntax just a little bit ago, I think we should use for of again because it's nice and fresh in our minds. So we will iterate through our string, and for every character inside there, we will either add the character as a property and assign it a value of 1, or if we've already seen that character before, we will add 1 to it. All right, so we'll say for let char of string, and then for every character that we find and iterate over, we're going to add a property to chars. To do that, we'll say chars, we'll use our index notation. So this right here will return a reference to that particular character, or at least its value. Now, if it's the first time that we are seeing this character, we want to set its value to 1. So if we have never seen chars at, say, capital H, then this right here will evaluate to undefined. So we need to make sure we handle that case. So we'll say if nothing exists here right now, then set chars at char to 1. Otherwise, assuming that there is a number already there, we'll take chars at char and we'll increment it by 1, like so. So then at the very end, we can print out chars and we end up with our object. So we have a capital H with 1, we have 3 E's, 2 L's, and you get the idea. Now the logic that we placed inside this for loop right here can certainly be condensed down from what we have. So a good way to simplify this would be to maybe use a ternary expression. We could also kind of condense this down to one line with a little bit of Boolean logic. And you know what, let's see a quick example of that. So another way of putting this logic inside of here together without using an if statement would be something like chars at char is chars at char plus 1. Now you'll notice this is why we can't just say add 1, because if we try to add 1 to undefined, we end up with null, as you see right here. So that's why we have to put in that if statement to see if that value exists yet. So one way of handling this eloquently in this particular case would be to say if adding 1 onto this number resulted in a null value, that's fine, then instead assign it the value of 1, like so. So if this is falsy, then otherwise assign 1 to chars at char. And we end up with the same object either way. So like I said, many different ways of putting together the body of the for loop right here. It's really up to you which way you want to do it. All right, so hopefully that kind of illuminates how we put this data structure together. So at this point, let's take a look at our question here and make sure it's really clear what we're trying to do. So inside this question, remember we are inside the Max Char folder in the index.js file, we want to pass in a string to Max Char and then return the character that is most frequently used inside that string. So clearly inside this string, C is used the most, so I would expect to return C. Otherwise, if we have apple 123 111, well then we want to return 1. Cool. So at this point, we're going to take a break, give this thing a shot, see if you can't solve it, and we'll go over the solution in the next video.